Alrighty guys, we have a great question here from Alexander in regards to his training program, so let's dive into it. I know there were some changes made to the plan, but I'm a bit confused. How will the body get the signal to build muscle and not just put on weight? Because as we all know, there's a big difference between fat gain weight and muscle gain weight, because we both obviously want to make sure that we put on muscle weight and not fat weight. Also, we've seen that when losing weight, it can fluctuate, right, due to water weight, temporary gain, etc. So how will we distinguish if I reach the goal based on this metric? Wouldn't this risk giving false results? So this is a phenomenal question, and one thing that we find with a lot of people who are successful in this program is that the ones who ask the most amount of questions, especially like in-depth questions like this, which are super nuanced by the way, the better the results they get, right? So whenever you're confused about something, whenever you're not really sure how something works, ask, because the more that you know, the more that you understand the process, and the more confident you will be about the process as well. Here's my answer to Alexander. We recently transitioned Alexander from a fat loss phase where we primarily focus on losing the body fat, whereas now we're kind of transitioning into like this lean bulk where now we're in a slight calorie surplus to kind of maximize the muscle growth while still minimizing the fat gain. So when we shift into a lean bulk, the signal for muscle growth doesn't just come from food alone, it also comes from the training stimulus. So the progressive overload you do in your workouts tells your body that, hey, we need more muscle tissue to handle this demand. And so the extra calories and the extra protein that we've added into his nutrition plan provide us almost like the raw materials needed to actually build the muscle instead of just maintaining it, right? Because as you get more advanced on your lifting career, you cannot just grow muscle out of thin air, right? It's like your body literally needs the raw materials, the extra nutrients, the extra calories, energy, in order to actually do so, right? Now, in the beginning stages, you can definitely get away with something that we call a body recomposition, which basically means that you're in a prime spots to both lose body fat while also building muscle mass. But as you get more advanced, your body kind of gets used to that stimulus, and it becomes increasingly more difficult to do both at the same time. And so that's why you see most of the beginners at the gym, right? Something that we call the newbie gains, see some amazing results after the first couple months of training because their body is so detrained and so not used to the stimulus where it'll just like soak up whatever you're giving it, right? Like if you just simply lift weights a couple of times throughout the week, you implement progressive overload, you eat enough protein, and you somewhat eat in around maintenance calories, you're pretty much going to be gaining some good amount of muscle and losing a good bit of body fat, right? But as you can tell with most of the pro bodybuilders, right, they go through dedicated phases of both bulking up phases, right, where they're in a calorie surplus to really maximize the muscle growth, and then also cutting phases, which are fat loss phases, where they're in a calorie deficit to really maximize the fat loss while still hopefully holding on to their hard-earned muscle mass, right? So the extra calories and protein we've added into Alexander's program now provide the raw materials to build the muscle, right, instead of just maintaining. Without training, the extra food mostly will just go to fat, but because we are training hard, implementing progressive overload, the body partitions those nutrients towards muscle gain and growth. So you got to have both at once, right? It's like, let's say we put you in a calorie surplus, which means you're eating more calories than you burn on a daily basis, but you're not doing anything with those extra calories. They're just going to be stored as body fat, right? Like if your body has no use for the added raw materials, it's just going to store them as body fat, right? But if you substitute or not, but if you complement that with resistance training, going into the gym and progressively overloading, demanding your muscles to get stronger over time, your body will use those raw materials, those extra calories towards muscle growth. So you got to make sure that you don't just do one or the other. You got to make sure to do both at the same time. Both be in a slight calorie surplus and also be training with resistance and obviously getting stronger over time, because like we just talked about, if you keep on doing the same thing over and over again, especially when it comes to the gym, lifting the same amount of weights, lifting the same amount of reps, your body has no reason for it to actually like grow, right? But if you're adding an extra rep every single week, adding a bit more weight every single week, your body now has a reason to actually grow with those added calories now within your diets. So as for tracking progress, Alexander's also writes that weight can certainly fluctuate with water, glycogen, and then also digestion. There's a lot that goes into this, right? And that is why we tend to look at the weekly averages and long-term trends over single weigh-ins, right? Because as we have probably both experienced inside of this program, your weight can fluctuate due to a number of different reasons, right? Like I said, maybe you had super late meal late at night, and then you woke up the next morning slightly bloated, and the number on the scale was slightly higher, or maybe you had too much water to drink, maybe you're weighing yourself at a different time. Usually you weigh yourself at 8 a.m., but this time you weighed yourself at 6 a.m., so the food maybe hasn't fully digested yet, maybe you're going through more of a stressful phase, so a lot of different factors can come into play, whether or not you slightly gained a bit more weight the following morning or lost a bit of weight, right? And so that's why we're not too concerned with the day-to-day fluctuations, because it'll definitely fluctuate, and that's totally normal, and that's to be expected. But over a long enough time horizon, right, over the weekly averages and the monthly averages, we certainly do want to see it go towards the right direction. So if your goal is to lose body fat, we do want to see a trend downwards. But if your goal is to gain muscle mass, we obviously want to see that trend upwards over the span of weeks and months. But day to day, that's not really something that we're too concerned about. And that is why, like I said, we look at the weekly averages and long-term trends instead of single weigh-ins. If your weight is trending up slowly over a few weeks, and we see your strength going up too in the gym, and your physique is also looking fuller, we'll know pretty damn sure that it's muscle gain, right? So day-to-day bumps don't matter. What matters is the overall trajectory. So in short, training equals the growth signal. The food equals the building blocks. And the data, right, the weekly averages, the gym performance, and the physique checks, the progress pictures, not just the weigh-ins, are the data that we look at. So one thing I like to tell everyone inside of this program is that the more ways we measure, the more ways we can win, essentially. So if we were just to go by the number on a scale, right, doesn't really give us the full picture. But if we complement that by also tracking your progress pictures, your performance in the gym, are you hitting PRs, your confidence levels, your energy levels, how do you close fit, your sleep, all these other things, and if those are improving as well, then we not only can measure more things, right? But if all those things are going towards the right direction as well, we are going to be pretty damn sure that we're going towards the right direction. So this doesn't just apply with fitness and training, but this applies with everything in life. If you want to improve on something, the more ways you measure, the more ways you can win. And it's also a nice little psychological thing where, okay, maybe the weight hasn't gone down this week, but actually if I look at my progress pictures, I'm actually looking a lot leaner. I'm looking a lot drier. So actually maybe I gain a bit of muscle, right? Or maybe like, you know what, my clothes feel a lot better now, or my confidence has increased, my energy has increased, my sleep has improved, my digestion has improved, right? So if we keep track of multiple things, we actually tend to celebrate more things, right? So that is a nice little psychological thing that we can also kind of start doing. And so this way, we'll ensure you're adding muscle with minimal fat using this process. So hopefully all that made sense. If you guys do have any other questions on this, please let me know. And yeah, I'll see you all soon. Peace.